Yo, are you guys chill if my dog just kind of sleeps back there? Yeah, great. Okay, I just don't want to move her. You want to know a little bit of Garmour backstory? I am a Faze hater. Always have been. I know, but let me explain. There is a man named Launders. I'm sure you've heard of him. One of his most popular bits is talking about racism in Counter-Strike and how we need to bring it back. What the crap? This dude supporting racism? No, you're a fool. The racism he talks about is just bringing back national teams in Counter-Strike.
How I'm going to define racism, all right, in this video is, do these teams speak the same language that is not English? They're not racist if they're European speaking English, okay? That's what we're looking for. We're looking for every country to have a team, or every region to have a team where they're speaking the same language.
And I mean, it's a valid thing to talk about because this game used to be completely dominated by pretty much only national rosters. You know, think Prime Fnatic, NIP, which was the peak of Swedish CS, Virtus Plow, Prime French Envy, Luminosity/SK, and of course Astralis. Now we have gross, disgusting international rosters. Ugh. Well, since I've been a young lad, I too shared this sentiment. See, I came from traditional sports. I've been watching NFL football since I was like 6 years old, if you couldn't tell. And in traditional sports, I feel like a lot easier to root for a team when they're from your state, or even in the World Cup where your team is from your country. You know, it makes more sense. It's easier to be a hardcore fan that way. And man, we used to have that in Counter-Strike and I absolutely loved it. So of course, on the flip side, I absolutely hated the idea of international rosters. But not only international rosters, international super teams. I mean, this shit made me want to vomit. And as a 14-year-old fetus, nothing irked me more than the 2018 Faze super team. This was my original hate watch team. I mean, I just could not stand it. The idea of just throwing money at the best players in the world, squishing them together and expecting results. I mean, it just seemed like cheating to me. And it pissed me off even more when it started working. But before we get to that success, let's kind of start with how we got there in the first place. The first ever international super team would be Team Kinguin. I spoke about them slightly in this video, which of course could not have possibly been posted at a worse time, as they would win a tournament 9 days later, and my comments would be flooded with well-deserved G2 glaze. Listen, if they win the next major, I'll delete the video, okay? You win. Anyway, since I already talked about this team like, what, 3 videos ago, I'm gonna make this one a little quick. Team Kinguin would be a roster consisting of Fox, Michaelele, Dennis, Scream, and Rain. They'd have great success, making the playoffs of a major and even winning a LAN against Na'Vi, before eventually getting picked up by G2. On G2, Jacob would quickly come in to replace Scream, and they would continue their great success, making the semifinals of a major where they devastatingly choked against Envy in triple overtime, and would, well, slowly begin to crumble after that heartbreak, losing their IGL Dennis to Fnatic and replacing him with a Lurker in AZ. After that, a new team in Faze would enter the Counter-Strike scene and buy the team from G2. Now, ironically, this OG international super team would get completely torn apart by Faze in order to create their new age super team that I talked about earlier, but this is a great way to set the stage for future Counter-Strike super teams. It feels like one small thing goes wrong for a lot of these teams and they just begin to crumble. Now, after Faze would slowly tear down this old Kinguin roster, they'd finally have their new age super team in late 2017. Rain would end up being the only remaining piece, with Kerrigan coming in as the IGL, Nico coming in as the Star Rifler, Guardian coming in as the Star Opera, and of course the 2015 #1 player in the world, Olofmeister, just to finish it off. The firepower on this team was absolutely through the roof, and along with Olofmeister being the previous #1 player in the world, well, 2016 Nico was the 11th best player in the world, and in 2017 he would jump up to 2nd. Guardian was also the #2 player in 2015, right behind Olofmeister. And Rain would end up being a consistent rock for the team, along with being the #4 player of 2017. Then of course, to top it off, you have Kerrigan being one of the best IGLs in Counter-Strike history. I'm not overreacting when I say we've literally never seen anything like this team. And let me tell you what, the results began to show incredibly quickly. ESL won New York 2017, an easy 3-0 win. I mean, it was dominant. E-League Premier 2017, an easy 2-0. It was once again dominant. IEM Oakland 2017, 2nd place. I mean, can you blame them, guys? This is that Reds Masterclass everyone be talking about. They then finish off the year with another win and a finals finish. They end 2017 as the 2nd best team in the world, right behind SK. And the first event of 2018 would be the E-League Boston Major. Faze, of course, being a fucking tank, would be one of the favorites to win the event, right behind SK. But then something came up. Bolts, a player for SK, just joined in the middle of October, 2 months before the major. Their former rifler Phelps was replaced due to internal conflict and tensions between the players due to mixed results. And well, Bolts was just on Immortals, who had played in the qualifier for the E-League major and failed to make it through. And according to E-League's rulebook, any player that participated in a minor, including the Americas qualifier, cannot change to any other team participating in the major LAN qualifier or E-League major in any capacity. This meant Bolts would not be able to play, and Phelps would have to come back and stand in for the team. This was a brutal situation for the best team in the world, and would then boost Faze into being the favorites to win the event. Faze would go through both groups 3-1 and 3-0, looking fairly dominant the entire time. They would then dominate in the quarters and semis, with Nico back-to-back 1.5 ratings helping immensely. This team was unstoppable, and well, to go back to little 14-year-old fetus me, this final couldn't have been any more perfect.
Something else is going on. He's got to go back. Stewie's on his own, but look at the time. Look at the time. There's 7 seconds to got the bomb. They're trying to build pyramids, but there's no more play. Stewie's won the round. We're going to overtime.
Cloud9 have done it! How have they done that? They came back all the way! All the way!
My baby darlings, Cloud9, 5 patriot-blooded Americans, all from the same country, versus the international super team, the evil of the world. Faze were unstoppable until they weren't. Ugh. Good wins again, just how it should be in this world. Anyways, that's the last time I've actually felt joy as a Counter-Strike fan, so. Now, Faze didn't know it yet, but this would be their best chance with this super team to win a major, and they had just squandered it. They'd go on to win more S-tier lands, sure. But unfortunately, 2018 was also the year Astralis decided to lock the fuck in. And they'd have Faze's number all year long, until eventually knocking them out of the quarters in the Face It London Major. They'd of course won another S-tier LAN, but guys, I've drilled it into your heads a trillion times at this point. Majors are the pinnacle of Counter-Strike. Everything else is potatoes to the steak, a side to the main dish. You can win a billion S-tier events, but if it's not a major, it kind of just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And I mean, if you craft a super team of this caliber and can't win a single major, in my eyes, you're kind of a failure. It's harsh, but hey man, it is what it is. Due to growing frustration within the team, they'd begin to crumble in late 2018, and eventually bench Kerrigan with Nico taking out the IGL role. Adren would then join to replace him. It's still going to be a very good team, of course, but wouldn't really improve at all from their previous form. Win 2 tournaments here, drop out of the quarters of this major, miss out of the playoffs on this major, and boom, Guardian leaves the team. And to replace Guardian would be a child named Brokey. Something Faze had never done before. They actually took a risk on young talent. Adren would then go on to leave, and to replace him, Faze would pick another former #1 overall player in Coldzera, because, well, he used to be good. I mean, adding random superstars kind of worked before, so fuck it, we ball. Except they would do the opposite. They'd fall. They continue crumbling until Nico would leave for G2, and then Olaf Meister would begin his infinite bench period. I mean, this guy's been on the bench for like 8 years at this point. The Faze super team was now completely dead. Well, I mean, besides Rain, of course, he's literally a cockroach. You know, all for good reason, man. He's a good player, and if I was a GM, I'm not gonna tell him he's benched. He'd fucking squash me like a bug. Do you see the size of this guy? Now, the Faze story isn't all bad. Kerrigan would eventually rejoin after making Mouse a top 5 team in the world. They'd pick up Twist from Liquid's bench, and eventually Rops would follow in Kerrigan's footsteps and also join Faze. And this iteration of Faze would win a major, and while sure, Twist and Rops are both great players, you can call this new Faze a super team. It wasn't nearly as absurd as the other one. I mean, that team literally had 3 players who placed in the top 2 at some point, with the other one placing in the top 4. I mean, come on. And this new Faze roster just had better, more feel-good storylines. Kerrigan redemption arc after rejoining the team. Rops and Twists were always great, but they're finally hitting their peak. Brokey ended up panning out and is one of the best offers in the world. And of course, how can you not love Rain? He's been with this team for a millennia. So congrats, Faze. I'll let this team slide. I feel like this team never really gets talked about, man. They're like the forgotten super team. And well, probably because when you look at the roster, you're like, what am I looking at? Let me explain. It's the StarLadder Berlin Major, and the staple of NACS complexity has been mediocre for years at this point. The owner, Jason Lake, was starting to reach his breaking point. So this would need to be the major complexity finally prove themselves. They'd come in 20th to 22nd place and go 1-3 in the first round, getting knocked out by Greyhound. Ouch. Jason Lake would then, of course, tweet this: "I love our players as individuals, but these results won't be tolerated. If you're a tier 1 player looking for a fresh start at the best facility in the world, HMU, I'll pay your buyout and give you the world's highest salaries. Let's build a juggernaut, spread the word." With newfound money from the Dallas Cowboys, Jason Lake was finally gonna build a super team. They'd start with Danish IGL Blame F, who during his time with Heroic posted a 1.18 rating. He can call, he can frag, but he's built like a tank. Surely a home run signing. Next would be Rush from Cloud9, a major winner who should be able to be a rock for this new team, and of course he's also built like a tank. Then would be Config from Optics Bench, the 14th best player of 2017 and future bar fight expert. Listen, if we're fighting outside the server, these guys might just be the major champs. Unfortunately, inside the server, to counteract these 3 maniacs, you'd have Obo. He's just a little fella. But in the server, he might be their most exciting prospect, having joined the team at only 15 years old. If he turned out to be the prodigy they were hoping for, this project could absolutely work. Then the final piece would be Opper Poison. Who, you might be asking? Well, my friend, he was one of the most exciting young opping prospects in the entire scene, having posted a 1.2 rating with his time in Wendigo. And I mean, to be honest, like during this time period, the team on paper absolutely made sense and seemed like it really could work. Maybe it wasn't a super team like 2018 Faze was, but let's just make things clear, a lot of money was spent creating this team. And I mean, if every player hit their potential, they could be a top 3 team in the world. Jason Lake's juggernaut was finally finished. Unfortunately, it was built at the end of 2019. They were fairly meh through the start of the online era until finally they'd play Blast Premier Spring 2020 European Finals. And against literally the best European teams in the world, they'd lock in and win. The juggernaut was finally coming together, but strangely, right after this, they continued down a path of mediocrity until something tragic would happen. Their most promising player, Obo, would bench himself. He had had a 1.1 rating with the team and seemingly just made a last-minute decision to leave. And like by last minute, I mean literally last minute. It was a couple hours before they had a match to play. See, the problem was this complexity juggernaut was of course majority EU, so they would need to boot camp and live in EU, while Obo, being from NA and being away from his family for around 6 months at this point, just needed to return home. He'd then go on to play for EG in 2021, where they didn't have much success and never play for a team again. And after this, he'd post some very concerning tweets in 2022 and look to start having a very serious problem with mental health. As of today, it seems like he is doing better and still grinds Face It fairly regularly. Now, after Obo would leave the complexity juggernaut, he'd be replaced by JKS. JKS was a great player, but it kind of felt like the team didn't really have that same tick that they had before. Because I mean, at this point of his career, we kind of know what JKS is, and it feels like the sky was the limit for Obo. But despite this, the team would really try and lock in with their current 5, and well, they do nearly nothing over the next year of online CS. Then, Rush would be benched on July 21st, 2021, and replaced by Esatag from Cloud9, who was still getting offers because he looked good on Astralis for 3 games. Config would then need to be benched due to a wrist injury, which is crazy foreshadowing. As his replacement, Complexity would temporarily bring in Coldzera because he was #1 in the world 4 fucking years ago. This would last a total of 1 month before the entire team would be benched and Complexity would go back to their all-natural roots, NACS. They'd sign the extra salt core of Fang, Floppy, and JT along with Junior and Grim. The Complexity Juggernaut experiment would last around 2 years, and I do kind of feel bad because I feel like the team did have crazy potential, but the mix of immediately being slammed by COVID, along with your best player having a decline in mental health, is just brutal, man. To this day, I still believe it could have worked, but it is what it is. Rip the Complexity Juggernaut. For some reason around COVID time, NA orgs were extremely horny for the almighty, all-magical super team. And well, after a lack of success after the Boston Major, Cloud9 was feeling like enough was enough. They saw that Complexity could win Blast Premier Spring 2020 European Finals and said, shit, we can do that too. To do this, they'd sign caster Henry G as a GM and give him everything he could possibly want. And I mean literally everything. Henry G would go on to say, "My plans for this team are certainly ambitious." He explained that he had been given full control of Cloud9 CSGO operation. C9 have entrusted me with their entire CSGO dynasty. And honestly, I think that's one of the boldest moves any org has made in a long time. Henry G was right. This was absolutely a bold move to make. And well, he would follow it up with his own bold move. He'd go on to create the Cloud9 Colossus, similar to Jason Lake's Juggernaut, and he'd go on to be public about everything, including the players' contracts. It feels a little weird, but like in traditional sports, everyone knows how much the players are getting paid. So I do get the idea. It just felt wrong for some reason. But let me tell you what, this shit was insane. I don't think anyone realized how much these players were truly getting paid. The first player in the Cloud9 Colossus would be former Vitality IGL Alex, who would get a 3-year deal for $1.65 million. Mezzy from Gamer Legion would get a 3-year $426,000 deal. Woxic from Mouse Sports a 3-year $1.365 million deal. Floppy on a 3-year $432,000 deal. And eventually Esatag from Astralis for a $2.1 million deal. Holy fucking scam of the century. Oh my goodness. This would be the official Cloud9 Colossus. And do you notice something? Henry G is British, and the first 2 players he announced in Alex and Mezzy were British. Very interesting. You know what this means? They were fucking doomed from the start. The fucking Colossus, man. This Colossus would start out at Flashpoint 2, coming in last place, 11th to 12th, tied with Contact and behind teams like Fours and Gen G. Now in their defense though, they did play VP and OG to start the event, who would both go on to be in the finals. So I mean, it was a brutal bracket. Next would be Blast Premier Fall 2020 Showdown, which was just a qualifier for Blast Fall Finals. If you make it in the top 2 of this, you would qualify. They'd place 3rd to 4th. About as agonizing of a start as you can possibly have. This was then followed by the team doing nothing, playing in a tier 2 event to gain confidence and not even making the finals, which actually ended up being bad enough that Woxic decided to simply leave. The actual issue was, since he lived in Turkey, there was pretty big time zone differences and he had a lot of ping when he was playing with the team, but making it sound like the team crumbled, he got mad and leaves just sounds better. He played 4 events with the team on a $1.3 million deal. 4 events. He was then replaced by NA Rifler Zeppa, and well, you probably know where this is going. Nothing, 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 nothing. And dear God, that is even worse than nothing. These 6 months of results were so bad, Cloud9 would end up putting their entire Counter-Strike division on hold. The team would then be benched and made available for transfer. They'd end as the 25th ranked team in the world, peaking at number 19. A Cloud9 Colossus lasted a total of 9 events. All of that chatter, all of that humbug for 9 events. You have got to be kidding me, man. Cloud9 CEO would go on to say, "COVID has prevented us from assembling the team in North America as we had originally planned. Though everyone has worked hard to rise to the challenge, the reality is that remote training isn't conducive for building an organization in the way Cloud9 usually does." Soon after this, Henry G would be let go as well. At this point, the Faze super team looks generational compared to these last 2. They're not super teams, okay? They're the Colossus and the Juggernaut. Don't even get them confused. You know, it does seem that maybe throwing millions of dollars at players and just meshing them together doesn't actually work. If you guys want to know how to build a good super team organically, I hate them, but look at Vitality. I mean, God damn it, did they perfectly build that team. Anyways, this video isn't about smart super team building. Let's go back to throwing millions of dollars at players and praying. The new age pinnacle of throw millions and millions of dollars and pray. The start of this organization in Counter-Strike was like a weird fever dream. They had Bro, random French player 47 multiplied by 10, and well, a Kenny S that was well beyond his due date because he's Kenny S, everyone's heard of him. They would then sign the, at the time, widely regarded best coach ever in Zonic. He won 78 majors in Astralis, went to Vitality, won a major. I mean, all this dude did was win majors. He'd be given the keys to Falcons and told, "You have infinite money, build us a good team." He'd start by buying trying out the core of an extremely exciting ENTS team. This would include Snappy the IGL, Sunpius the Opper, who was the 6th best player of 2023, and Rifler Madden. They would then be supported by Magisk, who Zonic brought with him from Vitality, and of course, Boros, who was left over. They had signed him a while ago due to his great performance at the Paris Major. Once again, this team on paper did make sense. You have the core of a top 10 team that had recently won an S-tier event, an extremely promising young rookie, 4-time major winner Magisk, and the GOAT coach. This should be nearly impossible to mess up. Welcome to Falcons. They'd actually start out fairly strong, making the semifinals of IEM Cato 2024, and then fail to qualify for the Copenhagen Major. Boros would be scapegoated and benched.
Don't change your mouse before the armor.
Then replaced by another gray-haired old fella from the Prime Astralis days. At one point before Dupree joined, Simple stood in for like one series against Metasport, because I mean, similar to Kenny S, it's Simple, everyone's heard of him, just throw him in. Anyways, after Dupree joined, they would completely fucking stink for the rest of this roster's existence. Sunpius would eventually be benched and replaced once again by Simple for the Shanghai Major RMR, and of course they'd once again bomb out. So Zonic's first project with this team was a complete failure. I mean, they missed 2 out of 2 majors. It can't really get much worse than that, but it's fine. They have infinite money. Let's just try again with a different core. Everyone on the team would be benched besides Magisk, and the heroic core of Kixen, Dexter, and Tessez would be bought. They'd also buy Nico because, well, I mean, it's Nico. Everyone's heard of him. But unlike Kenny S and Simple, he was actually still pretty good. This would be the first time in Falcons history they'd look not completely horrendous, actually winning something at PGL Bucharest 2025, but don't get too excited. This was basically a tier 1.5 event. The number 1, 2, 3, and 5 ranked teams were not in attendance, and the number 4 ranked team in Aurora just couldn't help but choke in every single playoff game they were in. Also, the team that played in the final G2 was completely dead at this point because those boys Falcons had bought out Odyssey because I mean, it's Odyssey. Most people have probably heard of him. Squeeze another star into the team, they'll figure it out. I mean, like, I guess this one at least made a little bit of sense because Odyssey and Nico had played together for so long. They already had pretty good chemistry. Anyways, this another $1 billion actually did help Falcons become good. They'd be pretty easily the 2nd best team in the world, consistently making deep playoff runs until magically bombing out of the Blast Austin Major 1-3 in stage 2. God bless this 3v5 on Banana. You guys know what this means. Another $1 billion to a star player. They'd get the most promising young prospect in the world, Kiyosuke. Maybe now they'll finally be able to actually do something at the upcoming major. But for some strange reason, I still have my doubts. Anyways, that's it for me, Smellies. There was honestly quite a few more teams that I did want to talk about. A couple national ones. So if you want another part of this, let me know. And subscribing to me, liking the video, notificationing tones on. And that's it. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.